All right, here we go. So welcome everybody back for our weekly seminar series. Today I'm so excited because I'm joined by my colleague and good friend, Bob Marks, and we're going to talk all things musical theater auditions. So I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody except for Mr. Bob. And there we go. And Bob is going to be unmuted. There we go. So I know many of you as you're my students and Bob's students, and there are many I don't know. We probably won't get a chance to meet everybody on our hour call today, but if everyone can see down below the chat box, this is where you can type in your questions because you will stay muted just for a bit, and then we'll unmute you when we have time for our Q&A. But I'm going to introduce Bob in just a minute. Our goal is just to give you some talk today, not as much action. If you want action, meaning how to put this stuff into motion, then you want to join us for the classes that we teach in person and online. But these seminars are really just designed to impart a lot of information. You can take notes if you like. I am recording, and if you need me to send you the recording, I can do that too. Or just listen and have fun. So let me introduce Bob, for those of you who don't know him. There you go. I'm going to spotlight him right here. Oops, there you go. Make him spotlighted. There you go, Bob. So there you go.
Look at me.
So why don't you tell our friends what we're going to do today?
Well, we're going to kind of do whatever you want to do. We can answer questions. We can talk to you about what we think about providing the right material for auditions when they want a certain kind of song. What should you sing? What is age appropriate? What is the right length? How to cut down 16 and 32 bar cuts? Pretty much whatever is important to you, ask us so we can go there.
All right. So
I'm here.
Yeah, why don't we start with what we had laid out, and we'll bring up each topic, and then we'll open it up for discussion, and then we'll take general questions after that. So what makes a good audition? All right, what makes a good audition in terms of song, of performance?
Well, the song and the performance are two different things, but picking the right song is, of course, the first step. You want to pick a song, first of all, that you know perfectly well, brilliantly, by heart, without any need to review. That you really are so comfortable with that song. You've done it with your teacher, your coach, your accompanist. You've done it at previous auditions. Don't try to be different, because being good is different enough. They say you don't have to be different to be good, because being good is being different already. There's a lot of mediocrity out there, and if you're better than that, you will stand out. A lot of it is in your performance. Do you know what you're talking about? Do you know who you're pretending to speak to? Do you know what all the words of your songs mean? I know a lot of times people, they'll sing Pulled from Addams Family, and my first question is, do you know who Liberace was? And even though it's a lyric in the song, often they don't know. Even when they're playing Wednesday, they don't always know that he was a famous piano player. So you want to know what every word means. You want to know what the situation is in your life. For example, if you're auditioning for the role of Annie and you sing Tomorrow, you sing Tomorrow as Annie. But if you sing Tomorrow, and I just picked that because we all know that song. If you sing Tomorrow for just any kind of audition, you are singing as yourself. Sydney, you're singing about what means something to Sydney. You're not singing about necessarily Annie, an orphan who's going to be adopted, who's in the Depression in the 1920s. You're finding challenges to yourself. You're being the optimist. So we want to know what the song is saying to you. You all have to be thinking. Because you don't think, you just have a blank slate. What?
My favorite example about that topic, right? So what Bob was saying is if you're in the show and you're auditioning for the show, you're singing as that character, right? You know, who is Annie and embody Annie. But if you're using your song as a general audition song, which is most of the time what you're asked for the first go around, come in with a song of your choice and you're going to sing Annie. You're not playing Annie. You're yourself. They want to know who you are, okay? But you must relate to the material the way Annie is. So this situation to Annie is as if what to you. And my favorite example is Ariel in The Little Mermaid when she sings Part of Your World. Now, if you try really hard to be a mermaid, you're never going to be a mermaid. right? You're not a mermaid. You're not living in the water. So what does she want? She wants to get on land so badly. So what is that to you? What do you want so badly in your lives? And when you find what that is, and for a lot of you, we all know what it is, right? You want to be on Broadway, you want to be a movie star, maybe you want to, make a mark on this world, whatever that deep want is, that's the want you're playing, right? And that's what we're talking about here when it's a general audition.
Right. You want to make sure that you make it yourself. So, for example, if you sing "I Know It's Today" from Shrek, you don't have to be locked up like Fiona is. You just think of what makes you feel that way. In my own little corner, what is a place in your life that you can really express yourself and be who you are? In other words, be the girl you mean to be.
Right.
And
So let's talk about this right now for a few minutes about questions that you guys have on song choices. When that we're talking about what makes a good audition in terms of song choice. Bob has said it's something you have to know really well. You know all the words in there. You know how to connect to it. But let's open it up for a little discussion, and you can just unmute yourself if you want to talk, or you can do the raise hand. Does everyone know how to raise their hand? And well, there's a raise hand option, again, depending on what device you're on. Yeah.
where's that?
If you go into the three, well,
Again?
for some of you, it may be on the three dots.
Oh, Lauren Wood raised her hand.
Yeah,
Let me add a couple of things though before we
Sure.
go into. First of all, the song should be age appropriate. The words should be words that you at your age, your look, would say. So you're probably not going to sing about your grandchildren when you're 12 years old. You know what I mean? It needs to be something that's age appropriate. It also needs to have sheet music that can be played by an accompanist at sight. So you don't want a lot of arrows and you don't want a lot of page turns, and you want to keep it very simple, very clear. Don't just bring your Little Mermaid Junior vocal book, because that's not real piano music. You want to make sure that you've had that music played by an accompanist who can let you know if it's clear, marked correctly, and in the right key. Okay, I'm done.
That's before we get to the two questions so far. Both Maddies are asking a question about an overdone song, but let's just talk for a few minutes about overdone songs. How do you know if a song is overdone? And if you have a song that you know it really well, but it's considered overdone, should you still do it? I know we both have a lot to say about this. So Bob, I'll start with you.
It always depends. I mean, I always say that, a lot of people wear jeans, but they always look different on different people. I probably wouldn't sing a song that is done so much because it was the audition piece. So, for example, every little girl that ever auditioned for Les Mis was Send Castle on the Cloud. I'd probably avoid that. I would also avoid songs that are currently running on Broadway, because you don't want to be unfavorably compared with Idina Menzel singing with an orchestra. You know what I mean? So something more, a little different. But like I said, you don't have to be different. You don't want to sing a song that they've never heard before, because you don't want them thinking, I wonder what that song is from, instead of, wow, she does that song better than I've ever heard it done before. So it really depends.
I find actors work so hard at finding songs that no one's ever done, that doesn't work for them all the time either. Like you said, Bob, it's, monologues and audition songs, there's only so many, okay? And they've heard them all. And as long as you do it really well and you're really specific and you really connect to it, it's okay. I think you need to avoid songs that famous people made famous, like, Don't Rain on My Parade, or, that Barbra Streisand did, or Liza Minnelli, things that you may never be able to, first of all, that's not even age appropriate for you guys. But, like Bob said, it's okay that it's been done, right? It's so okay. But how, overdone is it? If it's the song of the hour, and everyone else is going to sing it, if you can sing something else, sing something else. But if you do this better than anybody, I would say go for it.
I agree. And you should always have at least one other backup song. So if they say, I can't hear that song again, do something else, you have something. Or they'll say sometimes after you sing a song, they'll go, okay, what else do you have? If you go, that's it, then that's it. You don't want to do that. You want to always have a contrasting song. So not another song of the same kind. So if you have a slow soprano ballad, maybe you can have an up-tempo, more chesty, belty, up-tempo song.
And Chris, I know you had a question about songs. Do you want to ask it? You can unmute if you do.
I see stuff in the comments.
Okay. So my question is, going off of what you said about age group and choosing a song that's more appropriate for your age, for someone like me who looks young but is also old, like can go either way on the age groups, like what songs do you prefer, like for someone like me?
Well, first of all, you how old are you?
I'm 16.
Yeah, so you're right in the middle age there.
Yeah.
You're not going to play Oliver, but you're not going to play Fagin. So it's right in between. I mean, I would think general songs like Santa Fe from Newsies, that type of a genre, Hunchback, Disney stuff, Prince, the young Prince. 10 minutes ago, I found her from Cinderella, those kind of things that are more general age. Young man, not old boy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Sure.
but if you were to pick a song like Tonight at 8, Bob, what is that from?
She Loves Me.
She Loves Me. Where, I don't know, how old is he that sings that in the show?
I
Early
really
20s?
think it doesn't matter about the show. I mean, I think that.
How old is the character?
Well, he's an adult. But
Early
the thing is, but a 16-year-old could sing Tonight.
Exactly, as long as you can connect to it, right? About I'm getting so excited about meeting the girl. As long as you can connect to it, it's okay. But when young people are singing, and this is the thing, we'll get into pop songs in a bit, you know, singing about love and things that they just cannot connect with, it's just a poor choice. But I think as a 16-year-old, you have a lot of options.
Absolutely. But again, young adult. I mean, you could do an Aladdin song. My client was the sing voice of Aladdin in the cartoon. He sang, Proud of Your Boy, all those great songs.
Yeah, we're not going to go over every specific song choice for everyone on this call today, obviously, but we're going to talk in generally speaking. I'm going to try to work off this list a little bit here and stay on topic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You can just go ahead and mute yourself. We were talking about overdone songs. Someone asks about a contrasting monologue and song. I'm not exactly sure what you mean there, but if you're asked to do a monologue and a song, yes, it would be nice if they contrast. You don't want to do two of the same thing where they see only one side of you. So if you're doing a monologue and a song, you might do a comedic monologue in a dramatic song, or have it contrast a bit so you have a chance for them to see two different sides of you. Before I get to the belt, let's still stay with book and songs, Bob. Braden writes, how many songs should you have in your music book? What types of songs should they be? Pop, musical, theater, etc. And let's talk a bit about that.
It's kind of like, how many pairs of shoes should you have in your closet? If you ask my wife, you'll have a different answer than if you ask me. You should have contrasting pieces in every genre. So you want some golden age songs. I find that that's no longer being emphasized by a lot of teachers.
Can you elaborate on golden age song for the kids?
Golden age would be from about Oklahoma, the Broadway show Oklahoma, which was 1943, till about, normally they say till Hair in 1967, but I'm going to go till Annie in 1977, with some exceptions. In other words, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Rodgers and Hart, Cole Porter, Bach and Harnick, Kander and Ebb, Irving Berlin. There's tons of Golden Age songs, and they're known. People love them, and they usually are singable, because back then they didn't have microphones on their heads. So they had to make them singable. They had to make them either in a belty range or a soprano range so the audience could hear it over the orchestra. So those are important to do.
And I'm going to give you guys have some downtime. I'm writing it down. Golden Age songs. Spend some time on the internet looking them up.
Right. And of course, contemporary musical songs, something that you would use to audition for Evan Hansen, for example, something that you would use later to audition for, Wicked or Waitress or Beautiful. And speaking of beautiful, you want some pop songs that are done by solo singers, whether it's males like Stevie Wonder, Lionel Richie, Billy Joel, females, Barbra Streisand, Bette Midler, Carole King, Melissa Manchester. I know you don't know those names, but start looking them up.
Excellent. Let's.
Oh, I mean, how many songs? So it's. I mean, it's very hard to say. I mean, I would think between 6 and 20. Is that a good number? Some people have so many songs, and they come into my office with 3 binders of music. And you know what they always ask for? They said, "I need new music." I said, "I think you need less music. Let's go through these binders and see what works." And 9 out of 10 times they don't know all the songs. They just collect music from their voice teachers, or they just print it from musicnotes.com. And they got so many songs, and many of them are just wrong, or in the wrong key, or not memorized, or not cut. So you want stuff that really, really works.
Samantha and Alexa are asking, there are lots of contemporary music requests. How many years do you go back?
Wait. Lots of contemporary music are requested auditions. How many years ago? That is a very good question, because the word contemporary theoretically is con, which is with, tempi, which is times, with the times. And yet people will call Mamma Mia contemporary, even though the music of Mamma Mia was mostly written in the 70s. The 70s were, many years ago. 40 years ago. So I don't consider 40 years ago necessarily contemporary, but that is considered contemporary. I would say contemporary should be probably at least the 21st century. So the last 20 years.
Yeah.
The time frame has changed a lot. For example, the first show I musical directed ever was a production of Damn Yankees. Damn Yankees was at that time 13 years old. Now they're still doing the show Damn Yankees, but that was 60 years ago. Now the year I did Damn Yankees, if they were doing a show that was 60 years old, it would have been a Victor Herbert or Gilbert and Sullivan operetta from 1903. So the timelines has switched a lot over the years. 12 to 13-year-old girls, what pop singers would you recommend? Pop singers that I don't think there's a specific singer so much as the specific song that needs to be able to be related to by a 12 or 13-year-old girl. Now there are many younger singers recording, but I mean, you go back to Debbie Gibson, who was before your times, but look up her stuff. She wrote it all herself when she was 14, 15, 16 years old. She has, I think, 5 songbooks of music. She's made 5 CDs. Go to YouTube, search Debbie Gibson. You'll see a lot of stuff. Look at some old Miley Cyrus stuff when she was Hannah Montana. How about that? How about Alanis Morissette when she was a teenager? Or Christina Aguilera when she was a teenager? Or, you do The Climb. Do a Katy Perry song. It's not the singer so much as the song. You want the lyrics to be logical. You don't want them to depend on a lot of digital drums or background singers or choreography.
And again, look at the content. If you're singing, about, being left by a man at the altar, I mean, you're 10, you're 12, that's not going to work. So, find relatable. They're all singing about love, okay? But find a way to connect to the love.
And let me answer Taylor. I advise people to have a minimum of 3 binders. 1 binder, performance-ready songs. That's the binder you bring into the audition. So if they thumb through your binder and say, "Oh, look, she has so-and-so," you can sing it. Okay, everything in that book is memorized and practiced. Then a binder called Work in Progress. Those are songs you're learning. You don't want to bring those into the audition room, because if the pianist says, "Oh, she has this and this," and you go, I don't know it. You don't want that. And then you want a binder called Storage. Those are songs you're probably not going to sing for a long time. Like if you're 16 years old and you got your Annie songs, you can put those in the storage binder for your kids. So minimum of 3, and you can have more than 1 storage binder.
Lauren Wood has her hand raised. If you want to unmute and ask a question, you can if it's on topic. Otherwise, I think we're doing great. Putting the questions in the chat box would be the way to go. But if you want to ask that question.
Lauren, do you have a question? Or Lauren's mom?
No, Lauren's mom. Sorry, we just had the hand up by mistake.
Okay, no.
Oh. See, I don't know how to put my hand up.
You win. All right, let's let's talk about belt and mix. Maddie Pace, what are some songs to work on my mix? Now that's asking specific songs. Before you do that, Bob, maybe we could talk a little bit about the mix, about the belt, because another Maddie's asking if you feel most comfortable singing belt. Should you have that mostly in your book? Or should you even add? I think we've talked about a balance and evening it out. You don't want to have one of anything, but Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're a belter and that's what you do well, and your mix, your head voice just isn't strong right now, you're going to want to sing something that you sound good in. You're not going to want to sing a song that you're still really developing, correct?
Correct. You want to show off what is meant to be shown off. However, a lot of people don't understand that mix is literally a mix of head and chest. So if you want to make chocolate milk, you have to have both chocolate and milk. You can't mix what you don't have. So you need to work on your head voice, work on your soprano voice, do some songs as just exercises. Do like, a dream is a wish, your heart makes, very simple things, and gradually get to your head voice earlier. So when you're warming up, don't wait till you have a break in your voice. Don't wait till B or C. Start changing at F or G. Start changing earlier. So instead of going, ah, and you have the crack, you want to just go, ah, and then you can effortlessly go into your falsetto voice. That takes a lot of practice and work and lessons, but people do it. And don't forget, some singers are just, they're built that way. Andrea McArdle can still, at age 50, sing The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow the same way she sang it when she was 11. It's just one of those things. One day my friend was musical directing Annie. He said, I'm looking for another girl with a trick voice. I go, what do you mean a trick voice? That can belt really high. Because at that point, some people are built for that. Some people aren't. They say Ariana Grande has a very, very high whistle tone, soprano and everything. And yet when she was on Broadway and working with me in 13, they had to lower the Patrice songs for her, because she couldn't belt them that high. Before she realized she had to go into a more heady sound, she just tried to belt everything and power through it. So don't ever give up.
Let's talk about belting for a minute, Bob, just because it's, Bob and I do a lot of work, cabaret workshops together, teaching together, and Bob does this all day long. But, what I find so uninteresting, is when you're doing a big belty song, is that you're starting with your belt and you're, ending with your belt. Like you're just belting the whole song. And that's just not that interesting. I mean, just because you can do it, it's great, but it's so much more interesting, right? The opposite of that also, or working toward it. So Bob, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it depends what you're auditioning for, of course. If you're auditioning for a belty role, you want to show them you can belt. Generally, Annie has always been a belter, for example. I try to use examples that we all know. That's why I'm just saying Annie. But I've seen Annie done beautifully in the mixed voice, where she'll go, tomorrow. I mean, really, really nice. And it kind of makes you feel very tender. When Sarah Jessica Parker was Annie on Broadway, she was our third Annie. She did it. She was the first one to do it in a more falsetto soprano voice. And it was just so plaintive. And she was such a skinny little thing. And she was singing in such a sweet voice, you just wanted to cry. So you never know. Everything is what you're good at and where your voice naturally takes you. There are places your voice naturally goes. There are people that sound like this and they're always singing high and that's where they're comfortable. And then there are the belters that are more comfortable in their belt voice.
Hey, Hazel asks, what's the best way to strengthen my belt? So got some tips on that, Bob?
I think as you strengthen your voice, you'll strengthen your belt. Just remember that you don't have to be the loudest kid on the block. I've never seen them cast somebody because they were loud. They all wear microphones now. So you don't have to have the most powerful belt. That's not what it's about. If you're a boxer, you want a powerful punch. But if you're a singer, it's not the power that they're going to fall in love with. It's the expression, it's being compelling, it's being interesting, and it's being versatile.
All right, so that's a little bit about belting, right? Then we have mix, which I love your analogy earlier about the chocolate and the milk, and you have to have both in order to make the mix. Maddie Pace is asking, what are some songs to work on my mix? And I don't know if you want to address that at all.
Well, I kind of said anything that doesn't let you just sit in your belt range. You want a song that maybe goes up to 2 Fs above middle C. so that it gives you a little more leeway, and practice using not only your head voice, but the getting into the head voice from your belt. I've rarely found people that really need strengthening of their belt. Usually the belt is pretty much there. We call that speech level singing. You want to speak like you sing. It's the same vocal cords. It's the same mouth apparatus. And my next newsletter is going to talk about vocal technique and how sounds are made. So if you want to subscribe to that, go to my website, bobmarks.com, or send me a text or an email, and I'll be glad to send it to you.
Yeah, I
Just-
think in terms of songs for the mix, I mean, it's like, what's the range? If it's a huge range, there's your mix. It's in there, right? Because
Well, it depends. For example, if you know the show 13, Lamest Place, and a friend,
what it means to be a friend.
what it means to be a friend, they're very hard to sing. And I mean, Allie Trim sang it in a real kind of mixy nasal place. And you just have to see where your voice naturally goes. You don't want to make massive switches where you sound like you're cracking each time.
I don't want to forget this question. I don't think we spoke about it. Taylor asks, for auditions, should you take music out of your book that you don't know?
Yeah, I did talk about it.
Oh, you did? Okay, yes, because that's a
Three different binders: stuff
Yeah.
you know, stuff you're working on, and stuff you're storing.
excellent. Okay. The Bray family, because I don't know which one is asking it. For teenagers going into both local and professional, mainly local auditions, how do you help yourself to be seen as a rising adult with your vocals instead of being viewed as a child? I'm 16 and some directors who have known me a long time won't allow me to move into more mature roles.
You know, there are always perceptions. People perceive me doing different things in different ways, and you know, we all have reputations, and we all are just victims of that, and you'll outgrow that. I mean, when you get old enough, I was always the kid. Don't forget, I was always the youngest, and suddenly overnight I became the oldest. It was the weirdest thing. I was a 15-year-old musical director, 14 years old. I was 21-year-old conductor of the Muni Opera in St. Louis, and suddenly I was the grandfather. Just happens. So even though if you are 16 and you look like you're 13, that's who they want to hire. They want the oldest brain and the smallest body. So if that's the case, that's great. But what I would suggest, if you're 16 and you want to go into the next category, sing something about young love. Sing something. There's a Debbie Reynolds, a Doris Day song. It's called "Secret Love." Look that up on YouTube. It's a lovely song, and it talks about loving for the first time. Like, oh my God, now I know what love is. If you're male, sing "Love I Hear" from Forum. Funny thing happened on the way to the Forum. "Love I Hear" makes you sigh a lot. In other words, you're just discovering what love is. Not "I've loved and loved before, I'll love again."
See,
You don't want to do
they're
that.
only going to take you more seriously as a mature young adult if you're showing them that you can do it. So it's in the music that you're choosing and doing something different in the room there.
Absolutely. How much time a week should you be taking voice lessons? Well, nowadays that we're all trapped at home, you can do a lot more. You can practice with somebody online every day. It depends on your time frame, on your financial situation, on how much work you get done with your teacher and coach and such. You know, online lessons are very different because I can't simultaneously play the piano for you because it's only a one-way street. I can't hear you while you hear me. So you have to have tracks. So what people do is they put tracks, let's say, on their cell phone, and they play the cell phone tracks and they sing with it. And that's how we do it. And sometimes I'll send them tracks as we go. You know, say, oh, I have a better track of that. Let's try that in a different key. And luckily, technology allows us to do that. So, I mean, I think consistency is important. I would like to see at least, you know, once a week would be a good thing. But sometimes if you're coming into Manhattan and you live far away, maybe you want to come for a double session every other week. You know, we're all flexible.
I think consistency is so important. And for those of you who, you know, when we I ask where where do you have your training, and I see, it was in a 1 hour workshop, and you've got like 21 hour, workshop training on there. That's all great to get great advice and tips from master teachers. It's not where your foundation is being built. It will not happen that way. It is consistency. So when you're studying privately with a teacher, at least once a week, and if you can swing more, great. Or you're in a group class once a week. And those of you who study with me weekly or Bob weekly, I think you can see the growth because it's consistent. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. How long should you be doing voice lessons? I'm not sure I understand that question, unless you're asking Lily in terms of 30 minutes or 60 minutes, but
people study for the rest of their lives.
Oh, maybe that's what you meant. But yeah, when does the training end? It never ends, guys. You never get there. Right?
Well, they're there.
Yeah. But there's always more to learn. And, I mean, look, actors who are, singers who are working all the time, that continue to train. You have to keep your voice in shape. How disciplined are you? Can you train yourself? Not many people can do that. If you can sing while playing an instrument, should you do that in an audition?
Usually not. Usually unless the part calls for it, but that happens so rarely, especially with young people. When you're playing, let's say you're playing the piano for yourself or playing the guitar for yourself, you're generally sitting down. We don't see your hands move. We don't see expression. We're impressed, but don't forget, theater is not radio. We need to see the physical being too. And I'm surprised nobody's mentioned what do you do with your hands. But we want to make the hands seem as natural as possible. So when you have a conversation, you use your hands for the most part. Not all the time. You don't have motions, but you do express yourself with your hands. If you stood and had a conversation with your hands at your side for a half hour, people would think you're bizarre. So you want to show them that you're comfortable with your body. And they can't really see that when you're playing the instrument yourself. You can offer it to them if you think it'll mean something. Say, by the way, I can do this song with an accompanist, but if you'd like me to accompany myself, I can do that. And they'll go,
yeah,
oh, musician.
I think playing an instrument is just, we're seeing it more and more, that actors play instruments in shows. With kids, we saw it in School of Rock, but with all the other shows, we're seeing it with adults. But it's a great skill to have. But I also agree, you don't usually see it happening at the same time. But it must go on your resume and offer it up for sure about instruments. We're getting a lot of questions.
Don't forget, School of Rock did not have you self-accompany your audition. They still had an accompanist. You still sang a song. Then you played their music.
One last question on this, and then we're going to move on to age, and I'm seeing a lot of questions about that. But what's a good limit for a lesson that's safe for your vocal cords? 60 minutes, 45 minutes, 30 minutes, Bob?
Yes, depends on. I mean, I taught I don't do 30s. I do 45s and 90 minutes in my office, but online I do 45, 60, or 90. 90 is a little long to be staring at a computer screen. 60 seems really good online. 45 in my office is fine because we get right down to it, and I'm playing the piano while you sing, and you can do that more often. Basically, your vocal cords should not hurt after a voice lesson. This is not an athletic event so much. So if your voice is hurting after 30 minutes, that's a sign that you're doing something wrong.
Okay, we have two questions about, not looking like your voice sounds. So Alexa and her mom, what do you suggest when your voice is more mature sounding than your age? It really is the same question that Natalie's asking. I'm an 11-year-old who's small and looks younger than her age. Should I be auditioning with a song based on my actual age or someone younger? But let's address this first question of if your voice is mature.
In our business, basically, prepubescent is all the same. If you're auditioning for a Von Trapp kid in Sound of Music, you'll be right for one of them, whether it's Gretel, Brigida, whatever it is. So if you're 11 and you look 9, I don't think it's going to markedly change what you sing. You might not sing like a Shirley Temple song, like a real baby song, but you certainly could sing anything a young Fiona would sing, or a Nanny would sing, or any other Broadway character would sing. And look, if you're 11 years old and you're small and you look younger than your age, you're going to work more. They like that. Growth is your enemy. They like you little. We once had a girl in Annie on Broadway, Brittany Kissinger, and they changed. Annie usually says she's 11, but they made her change it to 9 because nobody would believe she's 11. I also had an 18-year-old girl tour in Annie as Pepper, and she just didn't look 18. She looked 15, so it was fine. What else? For auditions, does looking, dressing like the part you are going for help in any way? If you dress too much like the part, it will help you not get the part. Okay, they don't want to see you come in a costume. I advise people suggest the character. If the character is kind of like a tomboy, wear jeans. If the character is a girly girl, wear a dress. But don't wear anything that you couldn't wear out on the street. Right. No costumes, no sailor suits.
But there's so many period pieces, like, Mary Poppins, Annie, not so much for Annie for this Little Princess, where, if you are especially an upper class, British girl, you're not going to wear Uggs and jeans. You can wear a skirt, or, buy a neutral dark skirt. You're going to wear it a lot, and a white, Peter Pan collar shirt. That's, you're going to use that a lot for that genre or that style, that period piece of auditions, without it looking like a costume. If you go to parochial school, private school, like your private school outfit, that's a more of a conservative look. But
which is fine for School of Rock because they go to a private school.
Right.
It's fine. But I wouldn't wear a private school outfit to audition for Small Allison in Fun Home because she's kind of a tomboy.
Right.
She's always in like corduroys and striped shirts and stuff.
Right. I want to talk a little bit about, I'm not seeing any questions about this, I'm surprised. So let's talk about it and then we'll open it up, about audition cuts, because I love what Bob always has to say about this bar, this 16 bar, 32 bar, because we hear that a lot. I need a 16 bar cut or a 32 bar cut. I'm not sure why it's just not a time limit cut, a 1 minute cut, because all bars are different lengths. So Bob, why don't you talk about that?
That's it in a nutshell. A bar is like saying, how much is that? And you say, it's 4 bills from your wallet. You go, are they $1 bills, $20 bills, $100 bills? A bill doesn't tell me anything. A bar can, when they say 16 bars, they want a time thing. They want to keep it short. But 16 bars could be 16 seconds, 32 seconds, 45 seconds. I've seen it be more than a minute. I mean, there are 7/4 bars, there are 6/8 bars, there are bars come in different tempos, different times.
I don't know why they don't just change that, because it doesn't make any sense.
Right. What it should be is we want under 1 minute, because we can all agree how long a minute is.
So don't get so caught up in the 62 or 32 bar cut. Keep it short and get to the point.
I've seen them. You kind of need to try to follow directions. So when it's a 16 bar cut, try to make it as close to 16 as you can. I mean, don't count the introduction. Don't count the last 2 bars when you're holding a note. But try to keep it close to 16 bars. Keep it under 2 seconds a bar. So 16 bars would be about 30 seconds. 32 bars would be about a minute. That's a good rule of thumb.
And now let's talk about what makes a good audition cut.
Well, a lot of teachers and singers think that they have to take contiguous bars, like the last 16 bars, the first 16 bars, but you can really make interesting 16 bar cuts or 32 bar cuts with different sections of the song. You want your cuts to sound like a whole song. So it has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. In other words, if there's a 12-ounce burger on the menu and a 6-ounce burger, I don't want the 6-ounce burger to be half of the 12-ounce burger. I want it to still look like a burger. And I want your song to sound still like a song. So I want you to introduce the song. For example, when I do a cut of, let's say, Part of Your World, I might do the first 8 bars, which goes, look at this stuff, da, 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 da. And then maybe go to the middle of the song, take a little bit of the middle, the bridge. and then go to the end of the songs. When's it my turn? Da, 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 love, da, 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 da. And that way you have kind of an interesting cut. But you have to make sure that that cut is prepared in a way that's laid out properly for an accompanist reading it by heart. I'm reading from scratch without practicing it. So it needs to be very clear, not a lot of arrows, not a lot of repeats, not a lot of page turns. And there are people that can help you do that. Your voice teacher can do it. I can do it. There are plenty of people in the world that can do it.
Right, but really important that you're telling a story and it has some context to it. And so follow that beginning, middle, and an end. You know, start someplace, go on a journey, and end up somewhere else. It's a mini little story. And so that cut isn't just, oh, I sound good in this part, so I'm going to just do the ending because I sound good. You know, make sure that from an acting perspective, you know, you can go somewhere with it.
Samantha and Alexa mentioned, what do you suggest when your voice is more mature sounding than your age? That's a tough one. I mean, I've seen that. And a lot of times you'll go in there sounding incredibly good and you'll leave the room and they'll say, she's great, I don't know what to do with her. You need to find things that you don't betray who you are, things that fit your type. And if you sound more mature, I'm sure there's a way to lighten it up a little bit and find songs that are going to kind of lay back a little more.
And know that you'll grow into your voice.
Karum said I had to do once. Is that the musical, or he had to do something once?
Oh, no. That was we were talking about playing piano at the same time.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, I think we've actually covered all of these questions at this point. Let's talk about organizing your sheet music, how an accompanist would like to have it.
There's no one way to do it. In the old days, we did something called accordion fold. It was taped together and it came out, and you could either turn the pages and it would stay together, or you could like lay out 4 pages in a row on the piano. Nowadays, it's mostly binders because music is being printed on 8.5 by 11 paper. In the old days, you had to go to a music store and buy music, and it was printed on 9 by 12 paper, and it really wouldn't fit in a logical binder. So now that we do that, I want to suggest that you minimize page turns. Make sure that you always have a front and a back page, whether it's taped together or in a file page protector, so that when the pianist takes his or her hand off the keyboard and turns the page, I want them to see 2 pages. Otherwise, they have to do it twice as many times. And every time he or she takes his or her hand off the keyboard, you lose. They stop playing. So you want to make it very easy for the accompanist. Some accompanists have become real prima donnas. They only like non-glare, some like only thin, some like only heavyweight, some like no protectors. I find if it's clear and easy, I print my music on double-sided paper with 3 holes. I don't use protectors for myself because they take up a lot of time and they're very heavy. And sometimes they really do, some of them do reflect glare and the pianist can't see it well. And sometimes the non-glare ones are kind of fuzzy. They're a little smoky and it's a little hard to see that too. But you know, ultimately he's or she the professional and they should make do.
Right. So I know you answered Madeline Bray's question about sheet protectors, but also she's asking if I put my music on cardstock so they don't fold over for the accompanist. Is that okay? I think
sure. That's great. That was the old way we did it. We used to use cardstock or cover stock. Yeah, no, that's great. Now, when you say you put it on cardstock so that they don't fold over for the accompanist, is that just a folded music or is it a binder?
I muted you, Maddie. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's printed onto the cardstock. I usually print off my music and then I copy it onto the cardstock so that the copy that they get is just the cardstock.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, and it doesn't rip out easily. And also, if you copy it onto the cardstock and it gets a little ratty, you can always make another copy. So that's great. That works.
All right. We've got about 10 minutes. So I know we've covered a lot, so we'd love to hear specifically, if you guys have very specific questions, maybe about a song. Now that we can see you there, we can maybe look and say, oh, is this song?
Maybe I should see everybody. I wonder if I can.
Yeah, well, some people don't have their video on. Natalie's asking, what happens if you have a song that's cut in 3 or 4 places? How do you reflect this on the sheet music so it's easy for the accompanist to follow?
That needs to be cut and pasted in a way that makes sense. I do a lot of my music on the computer. So I will make different cuts. So I'll sometimes give somebody the full song, a 16-bar cut of the song, and a 32-bar cut of the song. But on the computer, you can do that pretty easily. You can do it. You can make a copy of your sheet music, a photocopy, and then cut and paste it. Cut to the end of the one line, paste it on a piece of paper, and just kind of put it together like a jigsaw puzzle.
All right, good stuff.
So am I seeing everybody? Are there 3, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5? There are 25 people.
No, the 31.
Oh, I see. No, that
People just don't have their video on. It's
screen
okay.
1 of 2. Oh, I see.
Yeah, there's another page. Yeah.
All of you people interested. This is great.
So, does anybody want to unmute and ask a very specific question? We are happy to answer it for you. Okay, Sammy. Oops, let me put you there. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I have a very specific question. So I did the song "The Wizard and I" in a cabaret, and I have a cut of it. I just don't know if it's too old for me.
Probably is. Also, don't forget, remember I said that one of the rules that I go by is let me just do it this way. Oh, there you are, Sammy. One of the rules I go by is if it's running on Broadway, don't do it. Also, don't forget that the song was done by Idina Menzel. Those are kind of hard shoes to fill.
Yes.
Plus, what role would you at your age and height and look go for where The Wizard and I is the right song? Yeah, I can't think of one either. Because you're going to go for things that are little girls. And little girls, for the most part, are not, belting their guts out in Wicked. So I would save that for like cabaret performances.
That's what I was going to say. That's why we do them. You guys love to sing, Burn from Hamilton. I mean, stuff that you're never going to audition with. So do it in a cabaret. But when we teach cabarets, I also like you to stay age appropriate so that I can really teach how to connect to the character's life. But, there are plenty of cabaret opportunities for you to do songs that are not that appropriate.
Thank you.
No, thank you. That's important because a lot of times you don't have to dazzle them. It's very interesting. I was preparing at one point. They did another of the many tours of Sound of Music, and one mom came with her daughter and says, "I really want her to sing a song that'll make her stand out." I said, "Well, in the Sound of Music, her job is not to stand out. They only sing in groups. There's no real, except for Liesel, there's no solo real standout version. You want to blend in when you're singing so that you can be one of the Von Trapp kids." So that's a lot of times what you want to go by. The Wizard and I can't think of a little girl part that would be right for.
All right, I know Samantha and Alexa have their hand raised. If you guys want to ask the question, you can unmute. Or I'll unmute you. Oops, there you go. Right.
Okay, so we have 2 questions.
Okay,
First
well, there are
one
2 of you.
is that what app should we use to get free tracks from? Like, is there any free apps that you recommend to get tracks from?
Well, there is a school of thought that says you get what you pay for. So nothing in this world is totally free, but the closest thing I can say is go to YouTube, find a track you like, and then convert it to an MP3 file, which you can do. Because you don't want to sit through the YouTube commercials every time you want to practice, right? And you want to be able to practice without a Wi-Fi connection also.
Mm-hmm.
So if you search on Google for convert YouTube to MP3, you can put in the address, and it'll convert it.
Oh. Okay.
Sometimes with advertisements, and sometimes they want to tell you to upgrade your flash drive, but don't do it.
Did you have a second question, girls?
Yeah.
Yes. What musicals are good to start learning from our age ranges 9 to 12?
Well, what musicals have 9 to 12-year-old girls in them? There's some music. Here's what I do. There are 2 categories. One is shows you could be auditioning for. So, for example, if you learned The Girl I Mean to Be from Secret Garden, that's something you should know because you could audition for that part and they might want to hear it. It wouldn't be bad for you to know some Annie songs because you could audition for that. It wouldn't be bad to know young Fiona, because you could
Yeah,
audition.
I've played young Fiona and Annie.
Well, there you go, you see. So, and by the way, what did you sing for young Fiona for the audition?
I sang I Know It's Today.
Right, what did you sing for Annie?
I sang Maybe.
That's the story. See, everybody wants a different song. They want something that showcases them and everything. But ultimately, a lot of the shows just have you sing from the show. That's what you sing. But you also want to sing things that you might be right. You might be right for The King and I. You want to kind of know a little something Rogers and Hammerstein, right? So there's a lot of shows. Find shows that have young girls in it. So I've been saying. So there are shows that you should know the stuff for because you could audition for those shows. And then shows you probably wouldn't do, but they may have songs that are really age appropriate for you. Like people sing Hey Look Me Over. That's from a show called Wildcat from the 1960s. And you would not audition for that. You would not be right for it, but the song's fine. So there's shows you should be prepared for because you could audition for them, and shows that might just have good songs.
Okay, thank you.
Meet you girls, and we want to answer Karam's question about the cut. He says he normally does a cut where he does the first verse, the chorus, then cuts straight to the bridge, and then to the end. Remember, we talked about that earlier in what makes a good cut.
That's a fine cut. Don't forget, most American songs, and I explain this usually in my lessons, are in a format called A-A-B-A. That's A is the main melody. For example, the sun come out tomorrow, bitch, about another tomorrow, there'll be sun. Then it repeats, just thinking about tomorrow, peace with the covers and the covers. Then a B section, a brand new melody. But I'm stuck with a day that's gray and lonely. And then it goes back to the sun come out tomorrow. So A-A-B-A. So you can always remove the second A without really hurting the song that much. 16-bar auditions came when people were auditioning for chorus parts. And they traditionally, because of the AABA thing, they would start with the B section and go to the end. So that way they heard the whole song, basically. They heard a B and an A. But it all depends on the tempo, depends on the song, depends on the key. You might want to sing the first 3 lines of the A section and the last line of the second A section because it'll lead you more smoothly into the bridge, or the B.
I like that. I wrote that in the chat box there. ABBA, A-A-B-A. I love it.
Yep.
And one of the first A's and just have it ABA. So let's take a few more questions, and then there's a few things I want to talk about. Any other specific questions? Now is your chance. Don't be shy.
I'm listening.
Is that you dinging, Bob?
Yeah, that's, yes.
Yes, okay. All right.
There are too many ways to find me.
Alexis, Samantha, go ahead.
So if you're doing a self-tape and you have to sing, would you prefer, or would it be better if we sing a cappella or using a track?
Always using a track of the other choice. Always using a track of the other choice.
Okay.
Because a cappella doesn't give you any help. It doesn't give you the first note. It doesn't give you the rhythm. It doesn't give you the harmony. It doesn't give you anything.
Making it difficult for yourself, yeah.
Sing it. I 1 or 2 auditions have asked for a cappella. I don't understand why, but if you have the opportunity, I would do it within coming. Make sure you have a good music track. Try not to use a karaoke track with a lot of violins and drums.
Okay.
Get a piano track and play it through a speaker. You know, don't just hold a little phone with you.
Okay.
All right, Taylor has her hand up. Taylor, go ahead and unmute, or I can unmute you. There you go.
So when you go into an audition and you go to the piano player, should you when you ask them for the song tempo, should you hum them the song tempo or sing it quietly?
I recommend that you sing the first couple of lines.
Okay.
If you sing it and it doesn't have a rhythm to it right away, like there's a song called I Feel a Song Coming On, and it starts, I feel a song come. Well, if you go to the piano and you go, I take it about this tempo, it doesn't tell him anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you could tap yourself. I wouldn't tap him or anything. Tap your thigh, tap your chest, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're setting the tempo for him. But if you just say, I'm going to sing The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow, that's a little brighter than normal, but let them know that's what it is. And make sure that if you have an introduction, he plays it at the right tempo. Because if it's the wrong tempo, you can stop before you get in too deep.
It's really important to communicate. You have just a few seconds in the beginning there to do that, and take that time to do it, because what will happen is if you don't, you'll make a mistake, you're not connected, then you have to stop and start over again. And so take the time in the beginning. The cast director knows, they know what you're going to do. And that also shows them that you're professional.
That's true.
So Senna has a question. I've unmuted you. Go ahead, Senna.
Okay, so if I were singing a song, like a 16-bar cut, and there's a line in the middle of the song, should I say the line?
It all depends. Is the line really important to the song?
Um,
If you don't say the line, is the piano just going to be playing aimlessly? What song is it?
well, so if I was singing I Know It's Today, there's a line in the beginning.
Oh, you mean Settle Down, Girls?
Yeah.
Settle Down, Girls, yeah.
But the piano is playing during that.
I don't think you need to say that line. That's the cue line. You don't need to say it. And it's also not really important to the song. Now, for example, if you were singing My New Philosophy, it would be helpful if you start with the cue line, because that sets it up. Because why are you telling me? I like that. That's a good philosophy. Why are you telling me? And you say that gets you into the why are you telling me? So that's not a bad thing to do. It just depends on the song. But if you had, for example, the lines, do you know the song Born to Entertain?
If what? Excuse me?
Born to Entertain?
Born to Entertain.
Born to Entertain. Well, there are a couple of lines written in that sheet music that you don't have to say. They were kind of ad-lib lines. They don't add anything to the song.
All right.
That's a good question.
Very good. I'm going to take one more question. Sammy says, should you make conversation in the room or no?
It all just depends on the feeling of the room. They really, usually they're in a time limit, and they have a certain amount of time per person. If you have a specific question and it's logical and it's reasonable and it matters, ask it. But I wouldn't say, so how do you like the weather?
Let them lead, right? Have you been? I haven't seen you in a while. They want to have a conversation with you. They're going to let you know. Be very respectful of their time. It's all about time. They want to get you in. They want to get you out. And if they want to take the time to engage, by all means, go for it. Let's talk for a second about this handshaking thing. It's never been in our industry something that we on the other side of the table like to shake hands, because with young people, no one ever really wants to get germs. But of course, now more than ever, now nobody will be shaking hands probably ever again. So you have an easy out there. It doesn't mean that you don't have to be nice and respectful, but that gives you that easy out. So look, if you enjoyed today and you got a lot out of it, we'd love to hear from you. Bob and I are always happy to take your suggestions and put together programs, whether it's, just free seminar or, classes that you can take with us, whether it's online or, of course, in person. Bob and I do our cabarets together. We do have one for the end of May, and if that's a go, we have a few slots left for that, and we'll, of course, take you. And if we have to move it, we'll move it. We also do a wonderful summer camp for a week called Bright Lights of Broadway, and that is happening, and it's at the end of July. We're seeing Mrs. Doubtfire. We're working with the cast for Mrs. Doubtfire, and you get to do your own cabaret, work with casting. It's called Bright Lights of Broadway. It's on my website, and you can take advantage of that. I have every week more seminars coming your way. We will have one on schooling. You guys might not be interested in that, but you can send your parents to that one. I have another lots of self-tape seminars coming. Why you need to have a good demo reel. I've got voiceover workshops. We've got dialect classes coming. That's going to be on Sunday, April 19th, I believe, is dialects and voiceovers.
And I do privates all, as much of the day as I can. I do them all from home. I do them all online, mostly FaceTime. And I can schedule pretty much 7 days a week because I got no place to go.
It's a great time right now, guys, for you to take advantage of the time that you're not commuting. And if you don't live in New York, you know, working with the teachers that you don't normally get to. So we'd love to hear from you if you want to set up lessons, consultations, or just go on our website, see what classes we're offering. Thank you, guys. I'm so excited that over 30.
Thank you for the nice words. Thank you for we're getting a lot of nice comments that they learned something that was incredible and helpful.
Well, we know so many of you, and you guys are incredible. And if you're new faces to us, Bob and I know I'd love to meet you personally. So reach out, DeniseSimonCoaching.com. You can email me yourselves. I love to hear from you guys. I always hear from your parents, but I really love when I have direct communication with you guys. I love that you're asking the questions today, because sometimes it gets lost in the translation going from us to your parent to you. You guys take charge of your own career. This is hard work. And it takes discipline, and just the fact that you guys are showing up wanting to learn is so, you know, I love to see that. So
when Denise says take charge of your own career, remember that most, if not all auditions, your parent is not in the room with you. So you have to be self-sufficient enough to hold a conversation, to talk to an accompanist, to answer questions, know what's in your book, and look like you can actually be somebody they want to work with.
All right, guys, we're going to sign off because I've got another class. So thank you so much. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Bob.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you one of these days. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.